Hey guys, it's Matt. I want to welcome you to the muscular tension release system. First thing I need to do is just compliment you on taking a chance on yourself, putting your faith on me, really desiring to get this outcome for yourself. I think it's a really good thing to do in life, so congratulations. Second, I'll just tell you a bit about how this program is going to be structured. It's going to be 14 videos, and you can do them at any time you want. It doesn't have to be done daily. It can be, you can have some space in between. You can do one a week, whatever you want. Basically, what I'm going to be teaching you in each video are new, new movements and new movement principles. For the early videos, we're going to be focusing on just getting these general principles together of how to control your muscular system, how to move your body with intention, and how to pay attention and give focus to the muscles of your body so you can sense and perceive the different levels of tension in your body. So very mechanics oriented, perception oriented stage. After that, we'll start to get into some very specific kind of concepts. Especially we're going to get into the main technique of this tension off, tension on, tension off technique that you can use to perceive specific muscular tensions in your body and get them out. And we're going to start to focus on specific body parts. So you can, if you wish, go look at the other body parts before you're up to that video. You don't have to do the videos in order, but I am doing it in a way that we do build on top, okay? Okay, so let's just get straight into it, all right? So what we're gonna start to do is we're gonna start to understand how the body moves, how to instruct the body to move, and how to pay attention to how the tension levels in your muscles are changing as you do it. So if you need to, pause the video while you just find a comfortable place where you can stand up, where you've got room around you so that you're not bumping into anything and nothing's annoying you or nothing can possibly distract you. Maybe you even want to get a quiet room so no person is distracting you as well. And then, okay, come back and start right here, okay? Okay, so let's start with some very, very basic things, right? So we're just going to start with this arm here, okay? So, normally what's the starting position, right? Your arm is down by your side, okay? And often you want to just move your arm around, okay? It's very simple. So there's a couple of things going on up here in the shoulder, right? You've got this shoulder joint, this glenohumeral joint. It's like this ball and socket joint that allows you to basically whoop, all the way around like that, right? But then you've also got this thing called the shoulder girdle with the scapula, right? Most people are familiar with this bone on the back called the scapula, and then there's this big thing here, this big chunk of bone here, and there's the collarbone, and this moves as well, okay? So these are two independent functions of your shoulder, okay? So what you want to start paying attention to is, okay, consciously choosing to move your scapula and consciously choosing to move your shoulder joint, okay? The glenohumeral joint. I just call it the shoulder joint and the scapula, right? So let's do a few of those, okay? So let's go like this, okay? This very simple movement where we're just still, okay? And we want to not be really moving the scapula and just move the arm out to the side like this, okay? And now, let's contrast that to including the scapula in some way, right? So maybe we could start by bringing the scapula squeezed back like this, right? Behind your back, pulled in towards your spine, and going like this, and raising it, right? So now, what you're doing is not only are you doing this motion here, but you're also doing this motion at the same time. Okay, so okay. Now, let's add in another thing. Let's do a rotation like that and like this, okay? So what you're starting to understand now is these concepts of choosing individual movements, like single joint movements, and multi-joint movements at the same time, and keeping that in your head and choosing that that's actually what you want to do, okay? So, single, then let's do scapular, scapular depress and pull back and up, right? Scapular depress, scapular raise and go forward, right? And now, twist the spine over. Okay. So, now that you understand this idea of like, okay, I can instruct particular joints to move by themselves, or I can instruct like this, more complex system where multiple joints in my body do different things all at the same time, let's start to pay attention to what happens in your muscles while you're doing that, right? This is another principle. So we're gonna start here again, and we're gonna acknowledge that, okay, while we're down here, there is some tensional configuration, and it seems to be in some way more relaxed or less tense or lower energy than when the arm is brought up to here, okay? So there is some increase in tension. Now, the reason I stated in these general terms is that because we've got all these fitness experts and they're like, okay, it's time to do the lateral deltoid shoulder raise. Lateral deltoid, right? But when you're just thinking like, okay, there's this one muscle that's happening, and you focus in on that one muscle, you miss all the other things that are happening, right? So what we're gonna do is, instead of like relying on instructors to tell us specifically what to focus on, we're gonna start to be independent in observing and using the tension in our body, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to first just put your arm down at the side like this and just acknowledge like what the tension feels like. You don't have to get it precisely right or anything like that, but just like be like, okay, that's what it feels like right now. Okay. And now raise your arm up like this and take another look. Okay, we're using our proprioception ability, our muscle sensibility. Sensibility sounds like one word. And you can acknowledge, okay, the tension level feels different now. In some way, it's different. It feels kind of like firm all there, but you don't even need to touch it. You can just feel with your mind that it feels a bit different, okay? So now, lower it down slowly and just watch the muscle with your mind and watch how the tension level decreases. Okay, so low tension, high tension, low tension, high tension, low tension, high tension. Of course, this is not particularly high. Like if you're holding a weight, it would be, significantly higher. So what we're leaning towards here, where we're moving, is I'm going to train you to sense very small differences in tension, because as your muscle goes, it can start off from basically zero tension to holding a heavy weight and it's at the full level of tension. But in between there's this whole spectrum that you want to be aware of, because when you start to be aware of the whole spectrum of tension in all your muscles at a time, and like you really have like this great conscious connection, then you can start to really, do good movements and, balance. Okay? Like this kind of stuff will be like easy because you can really sense exactly what's going on in your body, okay? Okay, so let's just do some smaller ones, right? So let's start here and say, okay, there's this level of tension, okay? And now let's raise it up to here and see, can you notice a difference in tension? Like, can you notice how that feels different here to here? And it's very subtle. Okay? So far, we've made two principles. One is that you can focus on a single joint and say, I just want to move that joint, or I want to move multiple joints at a time, right? You can do that thing, and like your movement becomes under your control. Like you're choosing what you do at any time, right? Like you can come down here and move your scapula, or you can keep your scapula here, go up here, now you can move your arm, or now you can keep that here and do your spine, right? There's these different joints, and you can set your intention and command all the different joints to do what you want them to do at any time. Okay, so if we have this idea of telling your joints what to do, or telling a certain body part to do, that's going to lead us right into the next concept that I want to teach you, right? And this is just how to generally interact with the joints of your body and tell them to move, all right? So let's go down to the hips. This is going to be very important, okay? So stand with your feet inside edges of the feet parallel. Okay, so just look down at your feet and just look at the literal outside edge, like along here and along here, and just make sure that they are in a straight line. Now, do not get into the accidental mindset that this is the absolute most critical, important way to stand, okay? That's not true. You can stand with your feet out, you can stand with your feet in, okay? It's all right. But for this exercise, we're just acknowledging that that's where we are, okay? So, about this far apart, all right? Down there. So, this is a hips exercise, all right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna tell our pelvis to move to a certain position. This is very important because most people have very, very stiff pelvises and very stiff hips. So what we're gonna say is pelvis to the left, okay? And we're not gonna say, okay, I'm going to use this muscle here to squeeze it to the left, or I'm gonna like use my spine to push over to the left or something like that. No, we're just gonna go doink like that, right? Like just pretty much just let it fall over. Now, when you do that, pay some attention to your feet, okay? Because something has changed. Now, more weight is over here, so more weight is on this leg, right? So you don't have to be 100% knowledgeable about specifically what has happened, like where exactly is it, but as long as you acknowledge that something different has happened and you go, okay, well, how does it feel differently? Like what feels differently? Okay, there's more weight on my feet. Maybe there's more tension in this area here. Maybe there is more stabilization in this hamstring and this quad now. And this one's kind of like a bit, kind of resting a bit, isn't it? So you can see how the tension has increased over here and decreased over here. So next we're gonna get over here, okay? But how do we do that? Like what do you tell your body to make this move? Okay, to go over here we just went left. Now you have an option here. You could kind of like squeeze it, like push like with your side glute here to kind of, and your obliques here to like that. But what I want you to do instead is imagine this next position, right? Just imagine that and say, I want to go into that position, okay? And with your whole body at the same time, but leading with your pelvis in a way, I want you to just go like that. Just like transform into the other position, okay? And as you do it, just notice how the tension changes, right? So you've got this more tension over here, and then you're over here, and you can acknowledge just to yourself, even if you can't completely notice it or it's just like a blur, a chaotic blur of different sensations, you can say, okay, it's different now. Okay, so left, right. So you even might want to close your eyes and just go pelvis left, pelvis right, pelvis left, pelvis right, pelvis left, pelvis right, and see, like, do you get stuck somewhere? Is there somewhere where you're trying to force it? Is there somewhere where you're really doing a lot with your muscles? Because this should actually be very free, very, very smooth and free. So this should be a very low tension kind of move, okay? So let's do to the front now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go forward and back, and forward and back, and forward and back, right? So some interesting things happen here because a different tensional configuration is required to hold up this position compared to this position. All right, when we're over here, you're probably going to feel some stuff in your hamstrings. Of course, your back is, supporting everything. Your glutes are going to be on. Your calves are going to be on. So this whole back line is going to be the one holding everything up. And when you go like this, whoosh, now this is holding everything up, right? So we are switching from tension in the back to tension in the front. We are literally switching. It's not just like different position. We are switching from one tension configuration to another. So we can acknowledge that and ask ourselves, how does it feel different? Like, what is different about this? So let's do it kind of, it's got like Mr. Bean, right? Just do your Mr. Beans. And just watch what's happening. Now, especially, you can take notice of your feet, okay? So like, how does the weight shift from the back to the front and at which times? Or are you able to just keep the weight kind of centered right on the middle of the feet and just move everything above it, but stay perfectly centered on the feet? Now, how would it change if you come up on the balls of your feet, take your heels off the ground, and now do it? It's probably a bit harder, but there you go. So now, you know how to do your hips left and right. You know how to do forward and back. Let me just check the time. Yep, good. We'll just finish the hips and then that'll be enough for this session. Now let's do a circle, okay? So most people got pretty stiff hips. So I remember when I started to do this move, I noticed it was very clunky and there would be these tough bits, like when I would get out here, it'd be like, ugh, like I'm grinding over something. But now I can pretty much, do it pretty wildly, right? So start small and go around like this, okay? So what we've learned to do now is we've actually learned to direct the pelvis. Most people do not interact with their pelvis. It's just this thing that's there. The arms and the legs move and the pelvis is just like, where do you want me to go? I don't know what to do. It's not stable at all, all right? But now you can actually lead movement with your pelvis. Like, you can put your pelvis where you want it. I guess I can't ski, but this is kind of like reminiscent of skiing, right? You're like really moving and leading movement with your pelvis. So to summarize, you learned that you can do a single joint or multiple joints, and we've also learned to instruct the pelvis, okay? So what I want you to do before you watch the next video, just in your time, is to start experiment with these concepts all over your body. So shift to this paradigm where you are controlling your joints and controlling your bones and telling them where you want them to be. So you're not trying to like figure out, how do I contract my muscles to force my body around? You're just telling your body what configuration to go in and where you want it to be, and you're watching your muscles in the meantime. Okay, see you in the next video.